According to data from NASA, global temperatures from February smashed previous monthly records by a shocking amount. So the data shows that the global surface temperature across the land and ocean was 1.35 degrees centigrade warmer than the baseline period from 1951 to 1980. The most previous record that was smashed was just 1 month earlier in January of 2016. So while we are undergoing an El Nino, which does increase temperatures, experts have compared it to the El Nino of 1998, which was just as strong as the one we're experiencing now, but we're still smashing those heat temperatures.
Yeah, we're number one. No, but while there's an overwhelming consensus that global warming is happening, that climate change is something that is definitely attributable to human intercession, the spikes and valleys, which you would normally see around long-term climate data, they haven't reached this level before. So this is kind of a troubling new spike in that data, just to see exactly how much of an impact is going on, at least right now, as it's being compounded with an El Nino and the underlying cause of human impact on climate change.
Right. So Jeff Masters and Bob Henson wrote a blog for Weather Underground where they're analyzing some of this data. And according to them, they say, quote, "A true shocker and yet another reminder of the incessant long-term rise in global temperature resulting from human-produced greenhouse gases." So within this blog as well, which is extremely interesting, I highly encourage you to go check it out. They discuss not only the numbers and not only the trends, but they also talk about the cost, the financial cost, and then the political cost of the kind of weather events that we're experiencing. For example, they talk about Vietnam, which in 2015 they lost $6.7 billion, which is 4% of their GDP, as a result of damage from a drought that they'd been experiencing. Zimbabwe also going through a drought. They've lost $1.6 billion, which is 12% of their GDP. And then another example, Fiji, $470 million that they've lost because of a Category 5 cyclone. So what we've seen is a lot of the countries that are affected by this are poorer countries with limited resources, and that's going to be the real trauma as a result of this.
Yeah, it's incredibly destabilizing, particularly in places like the Philippines or like in Africa, where you mentioned Zimbabwe. In Nigeria, there's been a famine that's been outrageous, and this has also kind of compounded their issue with Boko Haram. So you have, West African ISIS is now kind of scrambling together a really nasty war in this famine-reduced population. And we're going to see displaced people all over the place now.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and also when you think about it, I think the people that are skeptical of climate change, I mean, it's unfortunate that it becomes such a polarizing thing, but I think people get confused as to the difference between weather and then climate. So because, just because it snows one day doesn't mean that we're not still experiencing higher trends here. But I think the Earth is just telling us what we already know. I mean, I did a story last week about the global bleaching event of the coral. So the oceans are in the process of dying. I mean, we're seeing droughts. We live in California, which is undergoing a serious drought. It's just we live in the United States, which does not have limited resources, so we haven't experienced the full effect of this.
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of all the data that we keep getting, it seems like every month there's a new study that's saying, okay, well, this enormous piece of ice is melting from the Arctic, or the global temperature is at the highest level ever. It's really just another log in the fire, and the problem is that we're kind of we're being cooked in this fire that all this data keeps on heating up on.
Right. Well, and then also, like I said, because it's, for whatever reason, a very polarizing thing, especially in the United States. Some of the data expressed too that even though we've been trying to cut down on emissions, 2015 experienced a spike in emissions, and it didn't point to exactly why. But there is this sense. I mean, in my brain, I'm thinking some people are like, "That's not real." And then the energy lobbies and everything. I mean, it's just it's a nightmare.
There's also, I mean, the gas price has dropped a lot.
Sure.
So people are going to be driving more. People are not going to be as inclined to take, mass transit or whatever it is. But as gas prices go down, then you'll see, gas emissions will go up and we're going to get hotter.
Right. So July of last year was the hottest month on record. It's only March right now. So if the trends continue, then we're going to be in for a really hot summer.